I first saw her fumbling with the espresso machine in the break room, one of those chrome beasts only baristas or sad, underpaid assistants could master. She looked up, wide-eyed, holding a cardboard cup like it might collapse in her hands. "Hold it under the nozzle first," I said, not unkindly. She smiled. "I'm sorry. First day." I nodded. She had the same nervous energy I wore 5 years ago when I walked into these glass offices, heels too tight, ambition louder than my voice. Her name was Lana, fresh out of design school, portfolio full of imitation, eagerness leaking out of every pore. My job? Train her. My actual job? Associate creative lead at Maison Alon. But in a company where appearance matters more than ethics, your title is just window dressing. And mine came with a hidden clause: you may be brilliant, but you will still serve. Maison Alon was all glass, marble, and ego. Design meetings felt like silent wars in silk blouses. How to make your work look like it came from someone to pay grades above you. Everyone smiled through bared teeth. Everyone copied someone. But God forbid you say it out loud. I taught Lana how to navigate the maze. I started to forget where my voice ended and hers began. How to present an idea without sounding too attached. How to let a senior steal your line in a meeting without flinching. She listened, religiously. By month 3, she was shadowing me everywhere. Coffee runs turned into call reviews. Sketches turned into layout suggestions. Not because she was manipulative, not yet, but because I was tired. Tired of surviving. Tired of smiling when others took the credit. Tired of being a woman who made herself smaller in every boardroom so the room didn't fold in on itself. Lana watched everything. Her compliments were laced with curiosity. The way you layer textures. How did you know they'd love that color palette? You're so calm when they interrupt you. I told her the truth once, half joking. You survive here by bleeding quietly. A gift I gave myself the day I got promoted. Or rather, the day they let me sit in bigger rooms without speaking more. She laughed, like it was poetry, the kind of laugh that doesn't know how it feels to bleed. My apartment was a mirror of my routine, minimalist, curated, color-coded. On my dresser sat the only ring I wore, thin, gold, inscribed with the word quiet. I drank coffee black, shoes always neutral. I didn't own sneakers. Emotion was something I folded and stored with last season's mood boards. But the night I saw Lana on the company's Instagram page meet our youngest creative director, something cracked. No memo, no announcement, just a caption. Her smile was modest. Her dress was mine. I recognized it. She borrowed it once for a gala. The ring on her hand, gold, thin, a perfect match. The caption didn't mention me or the team, just Lana, the prodigy, and the designs behind her, mine. Even the sketch pinned to the board beside her elbow, that was my fall silhouette. I had drawn it after a breakup, the curve of the waist mimicking a wound I couldn't voice. I stood in front of the mirror that night, the ring on my dresser glinting under soft light, and for the first time in years, I let the tears fall, but only for 5 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. I opened my folder titled Originals Signed and Dated, because I may have been quiet, but I had always kept the receipts. I noticed it in the elevator, still ending with "Thank you so much for mentoring me, Maya," not in her words. Those were still syrupy sweet. Not in her tone. She still played the polite apprentice with wide eyes and curled toes. No, I noticed it in her shoes. The ones I wore the day I was asked to present at the NY Fashion Tech panel. The ones she complimented with starry eyes. 3 months ago, she wore knockoff flats with peeling soles. Today, they were Louboutins, my Louboutins. And now, she was wearing the same pair, not the actual ones, but a replica, perfectly copied, just like everything else. That's when my gut shifted. A week later, I came into the office and my name was off the door. No memo, no meeting, No apology. Just a new brass plate. Creative lead Ava Patel. My coffee turned cold in my hand, but my palm never flinched. The one I never emailed, only presented in person. I stood in the hallway for a full minute. Behind the frosted glass, I could see Ava, sitting in my chair, wearing my tone of lipstick, presenting my mood board on the screen, the one I'd spent weekends refining for the new campaign. How did she? That was the moment I stopped breathing. Ava's presentation aligned better with the board's revised vision. I went to our, quietly. Was there a restructure I missed? I asked, calm as static. Tiffany, the HR lead, didn't even make eye contact. She shuffled some papers. There's been a leadership refresh. We're moving in a new direction. My presentation. She looked up. Excuse me, my board, my concept, my tagline. She was in the room when I pitched it, not the one doing the pitching. Tiffany offered a tight, rehearsed smile. Maya, I know this is difficult, but perhaps taking some time to reflect. I stood, not abruptly, elegantly. Thank you for confirming, I said. That night, I didn't cry. I just stared into the mirror for an hour, studying the woman I'd become. Not the Maya in the resume, not the Maya in the office, but the Maya in the mirror. She looked tired, but something had changed behind her eyes. The next morning, I arrived early, too early, 6:42 a.m. The cleaning crew hadn't finished. Lights were still flickering on. I walked to the storage server, the one Ava never bothered to ask about. I opened my sketch folders, time-stamped. I opened my mood board file, metadata intact. I downloaded everything to a flash drive shaped like a sewing machine, a gift from my mentor years ago. I smiled for the first time in 48 hours. Then I walked to the intern cubicles, where Ava once sat, and left her a note. You forgot to credit the silhouette behind the spotlight. But the real betrayal wasn't Ava. It was how quickly the company let it happen. Not a single message from Mark, my director. Not a single acknowledgement in the company newsletter. Not a single thank you for your years of creative direction. I was erased like a pencil sketch under a Sharpie. All those times I stayed late to help Ava refine her stitching lines. All those weekends I prepped her for presentations. All the times she cried and I handed her tissues. And now she was sitting at the table while I was being served silence. I kept showing up, not because I forgave them, but because I wasn't done watching. Watching how she flinched when fabric terms came up she didn't understand. Watching how she copied Pinterest boards with too much glitter to little soul. Watching how the team whispered when she left the room. They didn't know yet, but they would. They always do. 2 weeks later, Ava was invited to present at the brand launch. The campaign, my campaign. The theme, my theme. The designs, slightly altered versions of my sketches. And me, I was asked to support her from backstage. Help her prep, Mark said. You're so good at setting others up for success. He meant it, genuinely. That's what hurt most. They really believed I was born to stand in the wings. I stood backstage that day, watching her soak in the spotlight. But I wasn't holding a grudge. I was holding the flash drive. And I remembered something she once said during one of our coffee breaks. Honestly, Maya, I admire how you remember everything. I can't even keep track of my passwords. Oh honey, I remembered everything. And I kept copies. They didn't stab me in the back. They handed her the knife and held the door. She didn't replace me. She performed me until the curtain dropped. They said I was emotional. I said I was observant. Silence is a strange kind of power. At first, it feels like defeat, the way a slammed door echoes longer than your own voice. But then it begins to sharpen you, like steel in cold water. I stopped replying to Slack threads, stopped raising my hand in meetings, stopped correcting Ava's vocabulary when she said hemlines but meant bias cut. I just watched and wrote every slip up, every plagiarized email, every time she reposted one of my quotes on her LinkedIn with hashtag humble brag in the caption. I wrote it all down. In my journals, yes. My laptop was a museum of facts and I was the curator, but also in metadata, Google Docs, time logs, design file histories. I still wore beige, still drank coffee black, still walked like I belonged in every hallway. But inside, I was in blueprint mode. There's a particular kind of vengeance that isn't born from rage. It's born from precision. And I wasn't after a scene. I was after silence that echoed louder than applause. Weeks passed. Maison Elon was buzzing about the brand launch. Ava was getting more press. She was even profiled in Women Who Lead, sitting beside her mood board, my mood board, like she debirthed it in a dream. I printed the article, highlighted the lies, folded it 3 times, tucked it into my red leather journal. That night, I stood in front of my mirror, tried on my old power heels, slipped on a new lipstick, stared at the woman looking back. "Don't flinch," I whispered. The final campaign review was held in the glass conference room, the same one where I presented the original concept for months ago. The investors, press, everyone was there. The CEO, and Ava, standing at the front with trembling hands masked as confident gestures. She opened her laptop, clicked the folder labeled FW23 Launch Final. I sipped my coffee from the back row. The cup had Maya written on it in thick black ink, and then the files wouldn't open. She clicked again. Error, source missing. Another file, another error. I stood, walked to the front, placed a flash drive on the table. "You may want the originals," I said. Gasps, I said calmly. "The kind that come before a car crash." The CEO looked between us. I was under the impression these designs were hers. Then I turned to Ava. She took notes. Then she took credit. "Funny, you borrowed my dress, my designs, even my ring style, but not my backups." I handed the CEO a printed packet, side-by-side screenshots, timestamps, file history, authorship metadata. Ava was the intern in the room. I trained her. She watched me sketch. Every design was created by me and presented on the stage. Silence. I looked down at my shoes, then back up. "I didn't come here to beg. I came to document," I said, and I left. The elevator ride down was slow, almost indulgent. Every floor felt like a step back into my spine. When the doors opened, I didn't look back. Ava had apparently filed a complaint, claiming I had sabotaged her launch. "No, sweet girl, I didn't sabotage you." Sabotaged? That word rattled like a loose pin inside a designer jacket. "It's about clarity." I nodded. Ava spoke first. I placed the contract on the table. Ava blinked. "What is that?" she asked. "Independent Creative IP Clause," I said calmly. "Signed by me, never revoked. Filed 3 years ago. You use sketches protected by that clause. That's breach of contract." Her mouth opened then closed. "She's making me look like a fraud," she said, her voice brittle beneath the gloss. I looked at her and replied softly but pointedly, "You made yourself look like a fraud. I just made sure no one looked away. You undid yourself by cutting from fabric you didn't own." Just the soft clink of my heels on marble followed me, and with it, the weight of 1,000 silences lifting off my shoulders. The same suit Ava once said made me look too executive for a creative type. She arrived 7 minutes late, wearing red like she wanted to bleed power. But power isn't a color. It's a quiet weapon you sharpen in silence. Power isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with shouting or slam doors. Real power walks in late, wearing the truth like perfume. From Mark the creative director. Time, 6:12 a.m. He wanted to discuss a path forward. I didn't reply. I read it while sipping coffee in my kitchen, wearing silk pajama pants and a face mask because for the first time in years, I wasn't rushing to prove my worth. Subject, let's talk urgent. I let the message sit, like stale cologne in a cold room. 2 days after the campaign disaster, I received an email. Let's all stay respectful, she said. This isn't about blame. Later that day, HR reached out. They requested a private mediation between Ava and me. Let's focus on resolution, she said. I didn't hesitate. The mediation was scheduled for Friday at 11:30 a.m. I wore the same cream suit I had worn the day I got my last raise 2 years ago. Tiffany from HR smiled tightly, like she'd swallowed a bee. Tiffany tried to mediate, and the designs were watermarked. You knew that, Ava. You just hoped no one would check. Tiffany turned pale. This could go legal, she whispered. I nodded slowly. Already is. I just came to give you a chance to respond before the press does. Silence filled the room. The only sound was the ticking of the Cartier wall clock. By Monday, word had spread. Ava was on leave. Mark was under review. The company's Instagram wiped the campaign. Emails went out to clients citing adjustments to leadership, and me, I didn't celebrate. I documented. I opened the envelope slowly, sitting by the window with a cup of chai instead of coffee, something softer, something warmer. I watched droplets streak the glass like threads pulling through silk. Higher pay. That same week, I received an offer from a rival fashion house. We acknowledge that our recent campaign failed to recognize the rightful creator of the collection. Maya Noor's work has long been foundational to our brand's creative vision. It trended on LinkedIn. Not be creative freedom, my own team. But I didn't say yes, not yet. Instead, I scheduled a final meeting with the CEO of Maison Elon. This wasn't about revenge. It was about the moment before the lights dim, when you remind the crowd who stitched the stage. Revenge isn't always louder. Sometimes it's notarized. She looked up and said, Maya, sit. I did. Her eyes moved to the folder in my hand. The conference room was nearly empty when I walked in, except for her Isabel Leckler, CEO. Old money, older rules. I've reviewed the case. You have every right to sue. I stayed silent. But you haven't filed yet, she noted. I smiled. No, why? She asked. Because lawsuits are noisy, I said. And I don't need noise. I need change. She leaned back, eyes scanning me like she was assessing fabric. What do you want? I slid the folder across the table. A statement, public, acknowledging credit where it's due. She raised an eyebrow. And Ava? Retract her title. Let her work really work if she wants to earn it. Or let her leave. And you? I stood up. I'm already gone. Outside, the wind was sharp, the sky a soft gray. My heels tapped the marble like punctuation. In my hand was the ring I no longer wore, thin gold, inscribed with the word quiet. I didn't ruin her career. I revealed it was stitched with mine. Poetic things always happen in the rain. You just have to be paying attention. I dropped it into a donation box as I passed. Because silence had served me well, but I didn't need it anymore. She wore red to look powerful. I wore receipts. It rained the morning my settlement check arrived, of course it did. 2 days later, Maison Elon released a press statement. And the designs were watermarked. You knew that, Ava. You just hoped no one would check. Tiffany turned pale. This could go legal, she whispered. I nodded slowly, but I didn't say yes, not yet. Instead, I scheduled a final meeting with the CEO of Maison Elon. This wasn't about revenge. What do you want? I slid the folder across the table. A statement, public, acknowledging credit where it's due. She raised an eyebrow. And Ava? Retract her title. Let her work really work if she wants to earn it. Or let her leave. Poetic things always happen in the rain. You just have to be paying attention. I opened the envelope slowly, sitting by the window with a cup of chai instead of coffee, something softer, something warmer. I watched droplets streak the glass like threads pulling through silk. And you? I stood up. I'm already gone. It was about the moment before the lights dim, when you remind the crowd who stitched the stage. I hung a framed quote on my new studio wall. It reads, "Some women want credit, some want cash." I wanted both and I kept the soul. The conference room was nearly empty when I walked in, except for her Isabel Leckler. I learned to copyright instead. Named, Stitch and Still. The tagline? Made in silence. Designed to speak. Orders poured in. Clients I hadn't spoken to in years reached out in DMs. A soft-spoken girl named Leela who reminded me of myself, the version that once believed politeness was enough. She looked up and said, "Maya, sit." Menders offered to consult. And my first intern? CEO. Old money, older rules. They replaced the front display after the campaign scandal, but they can't replace memory. They can't erase the whisper of who built the bones of their best-selling line. When the woman they underestimated walked out in heels, with nothing but a flash drive and her name intact. "No, why?" she asked. And they'll never forget that one rainy Thursday. I did. Her eyes moved to the folder in my hand. "I've reviewed the case. You have every right to sue." I stayed silent. "But you haven't filed." The only sound was the ticking of the Cartier wall clock. By Monday, word had spread. Yet, she noted. I smiled. "Because lawsuits are noisy," I said. "And I don't need noise. I need change. Already is. I just came to give you a chance to respond before the press does." Silence filled the room. Ava was on leave. Mark was under review. The company's Instagram wiped the campaign. Emails went out to clients citing adjustments to leadership. And me? I didn't celebrate. I documented. That same week, I received an offer from a rival fashion house. Higher pay, creative freedom, my own team. She leaned back, eyes scanning me like she was assessing fabric. Outside, the wind was sharp, the sky a soft gray. My heels tapped the marble like punctuation. I didn't ruin her career. I revealed it was stitched with mine. In my hand was the ring I no longer wore, thin gold, inscribed with the word quiet. I dropped it into a donation box as I passed. We acknowledge that our recent campaign failed to recognize the rightful creator of the collection. Then I chose new versions for myself. Maya Noor's work has long been foundational to our brand's creative vision. It trended on LinkedIn. Not because of them, because I posted this. She stole my sketches, my slogan, and my spotlight, but she forgot I designed the whole stage. I attached a photo of my original hand-drawn concept sheet, dated, signed, beautiful. It went viral. I didn't respond to comments, didn't give interviews. I just let the silence do its job. Because silence had served me well, but I didn't need it anymore. She posted an Instagram story from a beach in Tulum with a caption, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find peace." I almost laughed. Not because I was cruel, but because I remembered how she once told me, "I wish I had your calm, your stillness." I always feel like I'm chasing. Turns out, stillness wins, if you know how to wield it. She wore red to look powerful. I wore receipts. Revenge isn't always louder. Sometimes it's notarized. It rained the morning my settlement check arrived, of course it did. 2 days later, Maison L released a press statement. "Ava, last I heard, she took a sabbatical." I launched my own label 3 months later. Small, intentional. Sometimes I still walk past the Maison L building on Wabash Avenue. Mirror, ring, shoes, coffee. I lost each one. They taught me to shrink.